Yeah. Good evening, Ella. Oh, I think I'm joining with multiple devices, I guess. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you
Oh,
now.
sorry. I think my so I've been trying to unmute myself for some seconds. I don't know. I think my laptop is misbehaving. Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
Yeah.
Mav.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening. I can hear you now. So we're live already. I'll just go ahead and start, sharing my screen, so we can um, finish up on time, if that's fine with you, Ella.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Good.
Before you start. Okay. Good evening,
Oh,
everyone. For those of us joining on Twitch and on YouTube, please do well to drop a message on the back end room so that we'll have more persons joining in. Thank you. Please do that. Please drop a message so that your other colleagues will be as well on this call too. All right. Thank you, Mav. You can start.
okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're going to kick off this session. We're going to be talking about Node Package Manager, which is NPM. So I believe most of you might have heard of NPM or Yarn for managing your packages when working with Node. But today we're basically focusing on NPM, and I would walk you through the installation, the installation process, the some of the benefits of using the NPM packages. And we'll talk about installing packages. We'll talk about managing those packages, removing some packages or updating packages. Um, and I would also share a couple of resources, at the end of the session. So, if you're currently in the chat on YouTube, please go ahead and drop a message. You can drop an emoji, so that drop an emoji, guys. Drop an emoji, so that we can see how many people. I can see from YouTube we only have 3 people. I don't know if this number is correct, but please drop a message, drop an emoji, so that we can know how many people are watching. All right. Um, okay. All right. Okay. Good. So let's get started. I'm very sure you can see my screen. Okay. So I'm currently what I've done so far is I just created a very simple file index.js, and I have the console.log hello world. We always have to test if everything works fine. So I'm just going to run this file using Node. Of course, we have hello world printed here, which means our code is working. So the next thing I would want to do is to show you the first step. Let me start by telling you what NPM is, right? So NPM is short, or the abbreviation. It basically stands for Node Package Manager, and it's a tool, right? It's a tool basically that comes with Node when you install Node. It's a tool that helps you install packages, manage your packages, and basically those packages will be coming from the NPM, registry. So you can actually visit the NPM registry if you go to I'm guessing npm.org. I just have to be very sure. NPM, no, not npm.org. So let's see. Um, npm.js. Okay, good. npmjs.com. Okay, that's the right one. So I'll drop that in the chat, right? npmjs.com. Let me do that. Okay, so I just shared that in the chat. Of course, you can also check out the blog post that was shared with you. So npmjs.com is where you can actually access most of these packages. You can search for a package. If you're looking for a package, probably to work with QR codes, to work with UUIDs. I mean, it's fun working with packages because you get to, use a lot of pre-built packages for, while working that will probably suit your use case. There's so many packages out there, a lot of packages that would definitely, come in handy when working on your project. And yeah, we're going to work with some samples today. We're basically going to build a very simple system, kind of like a referral or a QR code, generator. Yeah, we'll work on something like that. Would use a package from NPM registry. Would use a specific package for that, and of course we have to be fast. So I will just proceed to show you how to install some of these packages. Or I think before that, one thing I want you to note is when we talk about the benefit of using packages, you cannot or you will not want to build every single package you're using for your project. Imagine you're building a software like a restaurant software, and you need a lot of packages for managing the IDs or probably saving to your database. You don't want to build every single package from scratch. I mean, you definitely don't want to do that. So it's a very good idea to reuse some of the packages. Some of them are, the official package from the official company. So we have the package for Postgres, we have the package for MongoDB, we have the package for basically most of the services that you would want to use, even down to AWS. They have their own NPM package that you can use instead of trying to connect to the API manually. Okay, so if we talk about the fact that you can reuse some of these packages, I think that is one of the major benefits. So we're looking at reusability. We're looking at easy installation because it's quite easy to install, and we'll be talking about that shortly. Of course, it's also easy to update. The reason why you might ask yourself, okay, are these really benefits? These are kind of like normal things that we should be able to do. If you have worked with any other language, especially languages around C or C++, you'll come to realize that most of the time when you're using some packages, you have to download those packages, the source code, you have to make or, compile them before you can even use them, right? But when working with NPM, you basically have to say NPM install, and the name of the package. So it automatically, installs inside your project, right? Which I think it's of course very easy as compared to downloading some libraries and building the library from scratch. If you try to build some of those libraries, it might not even work on your specific machine architecture. So it's mostly better when you have package managers like this do the job for you. So of course it's open source, meaning that all the packages you get there are free to use, and of course you can also modify them if you understand how they work internally. You can also set up versioning, which means you can choose to version your projects. There's something called semantic versioning. We won't talk about that today though, but you can actually use the semantic versioning style to version your projects, and of course that would you can actually use that versioning pattern to determine the changes or the level that your projects have gotten to, based on the iterations and the changes or development that have happened on that specific project over time, right? So of course you can use NPM for basically versioning your own project, and even managing the versions of the packages you install. Okay. Yeah, and of course compatibility. So the packages are also designed to be compatible with other packages. So you can easily integrate multiple packages together, and work with them in your project. And of course security. So you don't want to, like the other example I gave, where you download a code base maybe for C or C++, and you have to compile. You can have an hacker put up a code base, and if you try to run that code base, something might happen to your machine. Maybe some virus or some malware can be installed on your machine. If you're installing from NPM, most of the time, some of these projects are actually I would say they have less vulnerabilities, because NPM as a platform actually check these codes for security vulnerabilities to ensure that your project is safe. So you don't have someone else, through their package, steal data from your own project. Okay. Yeah. So I think that is kind of like from a theory angle, some of the benefits you can look at. Let's talk about setting up. And of course, I'm looking at the chat. In case you have any question, feel free to drop your questions. I'm looking at the chat. All right, so let's proceed to uh, setting up your project with NPM. So of course, NPM, when you install Node, you actually have NPM, installed, and of course, you can actually do npm-v to see the version you have, right? So that shows you the version you have installed. Of course, you can also do node-v to check out the version you have installed. If you downloaded it uh, on a Windows machine, from the website, and you install the LTS release, you can always run this command in your terminal, whether you're using command prompt, PowerShell, or if you're using Linux, then you can, of course, also use the same command from your terminal. Yeah, so so long you have a Node installed and npm installed, the next thing you would want to do to set up your project, you cannot install a dependency or a package, or a module or an external module. Basically, you can't install those modules when you don't have an npm project, right? So you need to set up a new project by simply running npm init. Let me zoom in one step. This would probably be better. So if I run npm init command, it's going to ask me a couple of questions like, what is my package name, right? So I'm going to leave this as, learn npm, which is the name of the folder, right? Okay, so it's asking me what is the version. I'm going to use the version 1.0.0, and the description of this project. So I can just say a simple project to teach um, how to use npm. So, yeah. And of course, the entry point is our index.js file. The test command, we don't have any test command. This is not initialized yet as a Git repository. So I'm just going to, for the author, I can say marvelous. License, there's none for now. So is this okay? Yes, this is okay. So now you see one thing, once you use the npm init, it asks some of those questions. You can actually skip everything by simply running npm init-y, all right? And it means the -y is going to basically answer, it's kind of like the yes flag, okay? So it's going to be a flag to automatically say yes to all the defaults, right? And then you can choose to edit this manually in here. So, the questions we answered, these are some of the responses, right? So we have them within this package.json file. The package.json file is necessary to have if you want to install, of course, because you want to install packages, because those packages will be managed by this package.json file. Okay, so I would show you how to install, a sample package, and would basically work with that sample package. And of course, you would also see the sample package, added to this package.json file. All right. So to install a package, let's clear our terminal. I am simply going to use the command npm install, or it can be I, right? Just for an alias. So you can use npm I. It's same to when you use npm install. So I want to install a package called uuid, which is a very simple package, for generating uniquely, unique identification numbers, right? So the numbers are actually very unique. Um, yeah. So let me. I think I would also I can't do this right now. I'm actually just sharing my VS Code environment. Okay, so let's just switch things up here. Um, I'm going to explain, and I'm going to show you how to search for these packages from the website first, right? Because you need to know the package you're using, right? You need to know the package you're using. So before you install, I basically know this package, which is why I'm able to just install it. So I'm going to share my screen again. So I would have to first stop the screen sharing, and I would share the entire. Yeah, that works. Okay, so I'm currently sharing, my browser. So as you can see, I'm currently on npmjs.com. Drop a message in the chat if you can't see my screen. I'm sharing currently. So I can search for packages here, right? I can basically search for packages from here. I can search for UUID, which is, I'm searching for the package I just installed. It's going to show you a bunch of packages, right? and you have to figure out the one you want to use. So I would give you a simple tip, but of course you can always Google, you can always search and say, okay, what is the best NPM package for unique numbers, for generating unique numbers. You can search for what is the best package for generating random strings, right? We have basically packages for probably most of the things you would need. So this is the exact match, of course, based on what I searched for. And there are some things you can actually check out here. You need to check out which of this package is still maintained, which of this package has good quality, which is very popular as well. Okay, so I usually check this out because, of course, you don't want to use something that is very poorly maintained, even though some of them are still popular. If it's poorly maintained, like some of these, I personally would not use it, right? And if you look at this one, for example, in terms of the value you have here, which is popularity, this one is actually less popular, right? So you can always check them. This is less popular. But this first option is very popular. As you can see, it's maxed out. In terms of quality, it is, of course, average, very good. The quality is 55%. And in terms of the popularity, this is definitely going to be, this is 93%. All right. And then in terms of the maintenance, it has 18%, which is, of course, you would tell yourself 18% is not actually a very good number. Why don't we use probably a nanoid? Nanoid is still fine. I use UUID, but of course, you can definitely use nanoid. It generates a URL friendly unique string ID. So it's kind of different because UUID is basically giving you, yeah, so UUID means universal unique identifier, right? So it's of course different from what you get from Nanoid, but we're going to test both, okay? And you can actually work with either of them. This is pretty much standard. We have different version of UUID. It's very standard. The idea is if you generate a UUID, it is always going to be unique, even if you have a billion records, okay? Um, yeah, so of course, I strongly believe you definitely would learn to also manage some of the IDs, but from the standard, of course, it's pretty much unique. So let's go ahead and open this in a new tab. Now, when you open it in a new tab, or when you basically click on it, I'm doing this because I want to come back to this page. So this is what I get, right? So it gives me a bunch of details telling me about the package right here, and of course giving me the command I can use to install this package. It's showing me that okay, this package has 86 million weekly downloads, which is cool, and it also gives me the version of this particular package, the license, and of course the unpacked size. So it gives us the size of this package as well. The last time it was published, which was 7 months ago, and also the GitHub repository. Remember, it is open source, which means we can basically navigate to the GitHub repository, showing us the source code of this specific package, and we can choose to download the source code and even work or work on the source code ourselves. Okay, so we can actually do that from from here. Yeah, but let's ignore that for now, and we'll just go ahead to install this. Now remember that most packages would give you documentation on how to use the package, right? So you see, you can actually create a UUID. Of course, there are so many other options here. You can specify the version you want to use. I usually work with V4. So definitely go ahead and try it out from here. You can read through. It gives you detailed breakdown about the package. But of course, if you already know how to use the package, you don't necessarily have to do all this. So let's proceed to install this. I think we did that already. Yeah, so we did that already with npm install UUID. But of course, I copied it there so I can also paste and install again. It is going to tell me that the package is already up to date. So if I go to the package.json, right now you see we have dependencies, right? And you see we have the UUID package right here. Okay, and yeah, we also have the version, of course, the same version you're seeing here. All right, so UUID is currently installed. One thing you would notice is we currently have the package lock.json, and we also have the node module. So the package lock.json is basically a file that would help manage the specific version and dependencies of that project, of that specific module you have installed within your project. right? So that is all it's doing, managing the dependency at a level where a different version would not, automatically override what you have. So this is going to basically manage the version of those, um, packages. You can of course delete this, but whenever you run npm install again, it's going to install all the packages you have. So if you take a look at this, you see we have node modules. Now, node modules is basically containing those packages we have installed. It was pulled down into node modules. So this is the UUID package. If I go ahead and delete the node modules and the package lock.json, if I run npm install again, the reason why I have to run this again is because if we try to use the UUID dependency, even though we have it in the package.json, it is not going to work because it will not be able to find that package since we no longer have the node modules folder. So if I try to do this, const, see, I'm going to bring UUID equals require UUID. I can basically grab v4, which is the version I need, and I can decide to log that particular version by saying v4. So I'm trying to create a new, uh, like a random UUID. So if I do node index, so what you're seeing here basically is because, of course, this was already installed. I want to show you something right now. Instead, what I'm going to show you, no, we're getting this value because UUID is basically installed on my laptop globally, right? If it's a package that is not installed on my laptop globally, you won't find it, you won't get this response. Now, what do I mean by globally? The initial installation I did was just local to this specific project. But of course, I already installed UUID like this, using the -G flag, which installed this on my laptop globally. So for now, let me just take that off and let me go ahead and run this again. So let's see what happens this time around. You see, it brought back the node modules and also brought back the package log.json when I run npm install, right? Npm install UUID. Okay, all right. So if I run this again, of course, this will still sorry, node this time around, index. So this still works. Now, previously, the reason why it worked even without the node modules was because I already had this package installed on my machine globally. Okay, remember, I actually have multiple versions of Node running on my laptop. So, at some point, I have installed a couple of packages globally, which means if I try to use a specific package that cannot be found here, it is going to try to fetch that package off the global yeah, so globally from my machine. All right, so there are some packages I've installed globally, like NodeMon, because I use them for different things, at different points in time. I don't want to always have to create a package here before I can use them. So I hope you understand that. We're able to create a unique ID, which means if I run this multiple times, we are going to get different IDs. Of course, it is not the same number and it's random. Okay, so if you run this multiple times, you're going to get different values. So this is just an example of installing and working with a sample package, which is the UUID package. And of course, you can read through on how you could use it. Okay, you can actually read through on how you could use it. Um, yeah, but let's also try the different package, which is Nanoid. I'm going to try Nanoid, and I would also try one last package, which is random string. I use random string a lot because it's flexible. So this is the package right here. Let's try out the Nanoid option first. Okay, so I'm going to install Nanoid. Hopefully, we're able to use it in Common JS because that is what we're using right now. So let's do npm install Nanoid. I just have to click on this to copy and then paste it into my terminal. So it has installed. We have installed Nanoid now. So if I say const, and remember, it can also be let, right? I can be var. I just prefer working with a const. So if I say const nanoid equals require nanoid. Okay, so let's check out how nanoid works from here. So we can basically say yeah, so we can just call nanoid and to generate something random for us. There's also a full documentation somewhere. So if you click on this, it's going to take you to that full documentation where they explained how you can use nanoid. I think the documentation is right here on GitHub. Yeah, so let's see what they have right here. So I think it's basically the same example. So you can basically also specify the length. right? You see, you can specify the length. Let's give this a shot. I'm going to comment this out and I'm going to say console.log nanoid. Let's run this. Oh yeah, I keep making that mistake. That's the node index of JS. Okay, so now we have an error. So because it says, the way we brought in the way we are using require is not working. So because it expects this to, be an EXIS module. Most times when you get this kind of error, it means it's asking you to use the import style statement, which would work mostly when you're working with modules. So I usually just have to rename this to MJS, which is a module JS, and I would go ahead to change this to import. So I would have to say import nanoid from. All right. So if we try to run this again, I basically have to specify MJS. So we have an error, and the error says Nanoid does not provide an export named default. So all we have to do is check. I see that we have to import this as an object. We are going to switch things up again, but just for the sake of having this to work. Yeah, so I was able to use it like this, the ES6 style, and it works perfectly as you can see. So we have we have our sample random string show up right here. Okay, and of course we can also specify the length, right? We can specify the length. If I run this again, you see we have a random string with this length. Okay, so this is just an example of us working with Nanoid. I don't really use this a lot. I probably would just stick to working with UUID or working with the random string, which is the next thing we're going to try right now. And so we have Nanoid installed, we have the UUID installed. I'm going to try something different. This time around, we're going to try random string. So let's go back to our browser. I'll take off some of these tabs. Okay, so now we have a random string. I just have to click on this and install. Also, basically have to use it, following similar pattern. So if I say const random string equals require random string. Okay. So if I say console.log random string.generates, and of course I put in the length, so I can say give me a length of 20 strings. I run this file. So now we have another error. So let's see where our error is coming from. Okay, so I think I have to change this back to JS. Yeah, I mistakenly ran the .mjs file name instead of .js. So now you see we have the random string giving us 20 characters right there. So this is what I usually use, most times when I need to generate some kind of customized slugs. So I'll show you an example shortly. Yeah, so now we've installed, we've been able to install 3 different packages. We can see that from here. We have Nanoid, random string, and UUID. How about to say we no longer need Nanoid and want to uninstall it? Okay, so that's where you have to use the command NPM to uninstall Nanoid. And this is going to take off Nanoid, as you can see, it has been removed, right? So you can also use the same command to remove the other packages if you no longer need them, okay? All right, so you have learned how to install a package and also how to uninstall a package. Of course, if maybe you have used this package for a very long time and you keep getting the error saying that or the warning saying that some of your dependencies are out of are outdated and you need to update them, you basically would have to run an npm updates. NPM update is going to check your packages and update them to the latest version. Of course, our packages are currently up to date, so nothing was updated. Okay, and of course, you can also update a specific package. So, for example, random string. So you can either choose to update a specific package or update every single package by just running npm update. Okay, so we can install, we can uninstall, we can also update the packages. Yeah, so I think that is pretty much the standard thing. You can also create your new project using npm init. We have those stuffs written in the blog, so check out the blog. I think what we'll just do now is to play around with a couple of packages. We're just going to, work on something very simple, but I think interesting. If this is your first time building something with, Node, you would definitely love, building projects with Node if you know the right packages and the right approach to building, your projects. So let's search for QR code. Now I want us to build a simple QR code scanner, right? A simple QR code generator. So what I want you to do from your end is probably download the QR code scanner because you're going to scan the QR code on my screen to verify the data inside that QR code. So let's search for QR code. Go ahead if you're using your iPhone or Android, just go ahead and download a QR code scanner from the Play Store or from the Apple Store. Let's build something simple. So what we're going to do is let's take this off, okay, and we're going to build a simple QR code generator. So we're going to be able to generate the QR code and we'll pass in the data, into the QR code dynamically. So let's just work with functions. We don't need to create any class here whatsoever. So just simple functions. Let's keep it simple. So I'm going to call this generate QR code. Okay, so const function, and the value we're going to pass in here would be let's just call this data, which means we're going to call this with some data. So our sample data can be maybe an object. So data, I'm going to put in like a username and website. And yeah, I'm going to basically pass in my website. Okay, so now we have the data. This is the data. We want to pass in this data in here. So, so I'm going to basically pass in that data just like this. Now let's work. Please give me 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that. We already installed random string. Let's go ahead to install the QR code library. So this is going to install, of course, from NPM with NPM install QR code, as you can see. All right, great. So we have that installed now. The next thing we're going to do is to basically, use that QR code, and we're going to convert this item into a string. We're going to basically stringify this item and, save it inside the QR code. And of course, we'll generate the QR code either, within the terminal or even as a file. Let's start off with, simply checking out the documentation to see how it works. All right, so we have installed the QR code library. I'm just going to scroll down here to use a very simple terminal type. So this is basically the command or the code, the block of code that we need to use. So we have to import QR code, of course, and we have to generate the QR code using this command. So QR code dot to string, I am a pony. All right, so let's take this off, and we're basically going to pass in data, but of course, we have to say data dot to string, right? Yeah, probably we can do that. So let's give this a shot and let's see if remember we're passing an object. So ideally, I would have probably used JSON.stringify, but I just need to test if this would work. So this is the data we're passing, and if I choose to run this using node index, so as you can see, we're able to generate the QR code right within the terminal using this simple command. Of course, this looks large, but yeah, you can actually do some customization here and there. If you scan this, which I am going to try to see if our data is valid in there. So I'm going to say QR code scanner. Hopefully we'll get a website where we can just upload the QR code and see if that works. This is currently in black and white, so Yeah, so I think this is trying to use our camera. That is not what we want. We basically want to upload a file, uh, QR code file. Let's call that file scanner. If you're able to scan that, if you can scan the QR code from your end, let me know. So I just, share my screen, and you can do that from your end. I can't really remember the service I usually use, so probably this would work. Okay, so let's give that a shot. I'm going to take a screenshot real quick. Okay, so I just took a screenshot and I'm going to upload that screenshot right here. All right. So, okay. So the problem with this is, the data that was uploaded was actually object, which of course, that was the reason why I said we should verify that. So we're seeing object because we should probably we should be better off if it would be better off if we do it this way. So let's try something else. If we basically just say JSON the stringify, right, and we run this again, we're basically going to have like a stringified version of that. I would definitely have to reduce the screen, the resolution, so that I can take the screenshots properly and also delete the previous one. All right, so if we upload this again, let's reset and upload the new copy. Of course, in most cases, you are not going to be saving a full-blown JavaScript object. But yeah, you can see we have username, we have marvelous, we have website. So this is stringified. So this makes more sense. This is the value of the QR code item. Yeah, so we can also proceed to generate an image like a PNG file. So I'm sure we could actually get yeah, I'm very sure we would get a sample. Let me search for FS, yeah, or PNG. Yes. Okay. So we could actually use this to generate a PNG, right? So we have this, we have the data right here. Just to verify if that is the right option to use. Okay, so this is going to generate that file. You can also set the colors that you want, and of course, this is your data right here. Now let's just give this a shot. I'm going to zoom in on this again. Let's reset our terminal. Okay, so yeah, let's also okay. So this time around, we are going to generate our QR code as a file. So instead of calling generate QR code, I'm going to say a function generate QR code file, right? And of course, we're passing our data. So what we're going to have here is we are basically going to call a different function right now. So in here, we're going to generate QR code and save this to as a file in the roots. So I'm going to save this as a file. I can also choose to pass in the name of my file, if I want to do that, just to make it more flexible. So I can choose to pass in the name of my file by simply calling a file name, right? So I can have file name just like this. So we're accepting the file name and data. So data is going to sit right here. Okay, so file name and data. And yeah, so we're going to have file name and data. What else are we looking at here? Um, what we are simply, so this is good. This is giving us a callback, right? I mean, you know how this works, okay? So you have a callback. If everything is fine, you get done. So we have the file name. So in here, when we call this, we're going to first pass in the file name. And of course, we can choose to use the UUID this time around. Of course, let's play around with that. So I'm going to say const. I'm working with const here. So UUID, let's just pass in v4 equals require UUID. So when you see me do this, this is basically called destructuring in JavaScript. So you're destructuring. So ideally, if we use if we use like UUID, it means we have to come down here to say UUID.v4, right? So these are basically the methods that you have within that particular library. So instead of calling it this way, we can just use to grab the exact thing we need inside here, which is v4 or v5. Yeah, so we don't need to call the UID dots, or whatever name you give to it, because the name can be anything, right? The name can be math, okay? And we can then say math.v4, right? Please, when you're naming your packages, make sure you use names that other developers working with you can relate to it, okay? So I'm just going to stick to v4, right? Of course, you can also say v4 as math, if that is what you probably want to do. Yeah, I don't think I did that the right way, did I? Nope, I'm not doing that the right way. So yeah, let's see, how do you do that the right way? So I'm simply going to search for NP, node package require. I'm going to say the structure as. Let's see if we're going to get a sample code to explain that. So the structure as name. Yes. Okay, so that is not telling me what I want. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do here, I'm going to try that from here. So just give me a minute. Aha. So require as alias. That's the best way to describe this. So can I use the Node.js require function as alias? Let's see. Okay, so yeah, where am I getting this wrong? Okay, so this is let's say Node.js, be more specific. Okay, so I'm going to instead, let's try this again. I think I made a mistake somewhere. So I can simply grab v4. That work? Nope. I think it has to be in here. Hmm. So an example of the structuring. Okay. Okay, so what I'm trying to show us here is basically how you would want to destructure this file, how you want to destructure and probably change the alias name. I think I'm actually getting it all wrong within this import statement. So, but give me a minute. Let me quickly verify where I am making this mistake. So I'm basically going to copy this, just to do a simple Google search. That. I mean, it's quite interesting that this, I mean, this is meant to work. Okay, so for some weird reasons, I think it says unexpected identifier. That's funny. So I'm beginning to think it's probably because of the I don't know, the version I'm using or something. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's proceed. Probably before the end of the session, I should be able to figure that out. But I'm guessing it's probably, yeah, we'll figure that out. Okay, so I am currently importing the v4, and I basically wanted to use this as an alias. So just like this, right? So I basically wanted to grab this as an alias. So you can actually use an alias for this. You can call it whatever it is you want to call it. So instead of saying maybe hello and you're calling hello dot v4, this is one style. The second style is to also just go ahead and call that v4 in here, right? Which is one of the properties you have in there. But it's also possible. It's also possible to use an alias, which is exactly what I am unable to get to work right now. But I'll definitely sort that out before we end the session. So let's check out. I think I saw an example. If I remember clearly, I saw a very simple example that was used here. The same style, right? So I think that was in the UUID option. So let's check that out. UUID. I'm currently on my browser, so yeah, I'm searching for UUID. Okay, so this is UUID. So of course, right? So I think it's basically the package, the version that I am using. Probably it's not supported here because this is exactly the way it was imported here, but of course using the import statement and not the require option. So I think this would yeah. So I'm probably mixing this up. It will work if we're using the the module option, which is of course if we're working with ES6, right? So then you can actually use you can actually use alias just like this, right? V4 as UUID V4, which is your own name. You would love to call this UUID V4. Okay, so if you're using the EXIS option, yeah, you can actually use this and make sure the name is something your team is, probably familiar with, or something you can remember, even better. Okay, so we're going to stick to V4. And what we're going to do right now, let's take off some of this. So what we're going to do right now is, use V4 to generate the name of our file. Okay, so I'm basically going to call V4 with the comma, right? So we have the file name. So this is going to be assumed as the file name. And of course, this is going to be the data, which is the stringified object. And our expectation is that it's going to save this, right in the root because we're not, putting that in any subdirectory. So if I go ahead to run this, which is the index.js file, it says done, and now we have the file right here, of course, with the UUID name, right? And I'm sure you can see that this is the UUID name. Now, one thing we have to verify, because you really have to verify if this picture is valid. So you see, we can't see the picture right here, but we can see the picture right here. So the picture is quite small. It's quite small, but of course that works for us because we are going to, simply upload this in here to test if we have the data, right? If we have the data. So if I upload that, so it says there was an error while converting your file. I will try that one more time. I think it was a network thing, right? So now the problem with this is probably the quality. I think the quality is probably too small. So let's go ahead and try this again. I'm going to take off these blue dots. Let's stick to black, right? So yeah, and let's also check out the QR code library here. So just to see some of the properties that you can actually set. Okay. I'm very sure you can actually do some customization. So you see we have some of these properties here. So you can basically set some customization, just like the color option you're seeing we have there. So yeah, let's see what else can we do. Okay, so this is the QR code capacity. Of course, you can make adjustments here, and I'm very sure you can also set the size. So we're trying to check out, the size. Okay, so I'm just going to search. I can search for size. Okay, so auto generate optimize segments, blah blah blah. Let's see. Okay, so we don't need to we're not going to like read up every single thing here, but of course you can definitely set the size, of course set the height and the width. I strongly believe you can do that using this library. So just go around, have fun, play around with this. You can generate a QR code that would act as a personal link, right? So yeah, so I think someone also dropped a sample of what I was talking about. That only works in ES6. Um, I'm currently using Node version 18, so probably I could not get to use it here because I'm currently using CommonJS. Yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. So you can play around with these libraries. What I just used now is the QR code library. We're able to generate a QR code right here. We could not get that show up here. I think I'm having some problems with my VS Code web view. But of course, I can right click on this and I can actually show this in my Finder. And then you can see the QR code sitting right here, okay, which is 164 by 164, in pixel in terms of the size. So yeah, I even changed the value there, so which means you can even add like a normal text, right? I can definitely go ahead to add like a normal text. Hello world. My name is Mark. I am an engineer. So yeah, you can add a normal text. Of course, this would also work perfectly with a different name, of course. So you see, it's not going to collide with this. It's going to give us a different unique. Now we are not very sure uh, which is which. So let's see. Yeah, so this is the new one we have. I took off the blue and now we have black and white. So this is quite simple, straightforward. Working with the code from documentation. We did not write anything here, off our head. It was basically documented here. And most of the packages you're going to be using, of course, will be documented. If you're building a backend project with Express or Core.js or any server framework you would want to use, it's properly documented, and you can just install that package and start, working with that package based on the documentation, right? So of course you have to know how it works, and of course you can only know how it works using the documentation. So I think that's pretty, that's pretty what we have to cover tonight. Working with these packages. Of course, building something very basic, which is the QR code generator. In most of my sessions, I do build sample apps, just for fun. So I do some streams, and we basically just play around with backend code. We talk about backend programming, and we definitely use a lot of packages. So of course, with time, we'll get to build a couple of stuffs, and you'll definitely enjoy working with packages. All right. So if you have any question, go ahead and drop your question. I think maybe that this particular question is for us, right? Is it possible to add phone number and social media? Yeah, I mean you can add a lot of things, but you probably don't want to do that. So the way this would work is if you're building something, you always have to think about the model. How do you want your system to work? So it's called system design. You need to design your system. So for example, you could say you want to have like you want to be able to generate the QR codes, and you also want to have like a link generated. And when the link is generated, you probably have a link like the random ID alongside maybe some prefix. So when someone scan that particular code, it then takes them to a specific page, and that code is going to be collected again from the backend, and that code will be used to search for something. So you can build like a QR code, like a marketplace that works with a QR code. So if you send me a QR code, just like the way your WhatsApp QR code work, right? When I scan it, it's going to take a specific, ID or a specific item, and then it's going to use that item to, fetch some other, records, right? So that's basically what you're doing there. You don't want to store a large amount of data because then it's going to be too, you're going to have too much data, and it won't make any sense again. You just want to have a few amount of data with a identifier, and you can use that identifier to search for something else on your backend. Okay, we would work with stuff like that, and I believe you understand it with time, which now. All right, so I think that's all. If you have any other question, we're almost done. Um, yeah, I'll just stop sharing my screen for now. Uh, I believe the attendance is going around already. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Ella, if you can hear me.
Sorry, it's my
Okay, okay. So Amaka, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you, Mav.
Oh yeah. So that's all from my end. I think yeah, that will be all for the class. Thank you.
anyone hear me?
Okay, I can hear you, Ella.
Okay, thank you, Mav. For yeah, so please, if you have questions, please drop it on the comment, or you can drop your questions at the Discord room, and we'll on YouTube to follow. And please make sure your notification is videos or workshop or events you get to be notified. Okay, thank you so much. Hello, Mav, can you hear me? I don't know if you can
Um,
hear me.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I can. I can. So, I mean, for those of you asking questions now, I think probably you can bring your question down to the Discord room. If your node isn't working, you have to really specify. Okay, I'm using Windows. I mean, you should be able to explain the problem in detail. So go over to the Discord room and drop your question there. I'm sure the moderators will also assist you. So please, you can do that in the Discord room. Thank you. I think that will be all. So have a wonderful evening, guys.
All
Please
right, I think we've
follow.
come to the end of today's class. Thank you so much once again, Mav, for today's class. All right, everyone, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Bye, everyone.
yeah, and don't forget to follow us on Twitch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Good night, guys.